Good morning, and welcome to Sunday Soul Day, weekly fuel for your mind, body, and soul. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Natalie Sampson, a dynamic individual who defied self-imposed limiting beliefs to achieve remarkable success in her life. From earning her Doctor of Physical Therapy degree from the University of Southern California, while raising 3 children, to owning a thriving business in physical therapy and fitness, she also co-owns not one, but 2 Orangetheory Fitness franchises promoting a healthier lifestyle. Additionally, she's ventured into lifestyle modeling and so many other things that she's doing. I am so excited for you guys to meet her. Welcome to Sunday Soul Day, Dr. Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And good morning, Allie. How are you?
Good morning, Demisha. Good morning, Natalie. I am great.
Oh, this is going to be so exciting. I cannot wait to dive into her background. And I thought we would just kick it off with talking about your journey, kind of highlighting the transformative power of education, entrepreneurship, and creativity. You earned your degree while having 3 children. Like, I would love to just even start there. Tell me about that experience and what even prompted you to go back to school.
Oh boy. Okay, so I went to school for many, many years. Growing up, I did not know until later that I had at least one relative that had gone to college. And I just really did not see myself as a college student. But I knew that I loved learning. So I'd always take classes at junior colleges. And I had an experience. By this time, I had one child, a 6-month-old, and I took a biology class at Pierce College here in LA. And the first test, I did really well. Apparently, I think I missed, like, I don't know, one question. And but the rest of the class didn't do so well. So, anyways, the professor said to me, "What are you doing here? You do not belong here." And he just really planted a seed. And I started to see myself differently, but it took a lot of years to kind of undo that mindset. And I'll have to say, after from there on, though, my husband has been like really my biggest fan in that. And I hope I'm answering your question, but I'm going to say it was a long process of um, gradually seeing myself differently and not downplaying my accomplishments because I didn't think it was a big deal. I always got good grades, but I'd always find a reason um, for that other than that maybe I'm smart, maybe I'm a good learner, maybe I can learn more. And I was always telling myself, oh, that's just not that great of a school, or oh, it's just a junior college, you know. And I think women in general do that a lot. We downplay our accomplishments and find some other reason for it other than just what's inherently inside of us. So that's been a huge part of my transformation into who I am today and who I'm still evolving and growing all the time.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing. And I could not agree more. I think it is almost natural for us to downplay as women, just our accomplishments, because we're taught to be extremely humble, which is obviously a beautiful quality to have, but also we're never taught to celebrate our greatness and step into it, and to own it, quite honestly. And so that's something that I've been trying to instill in my daughter, and she's 6 years old right now. It's just to really own, her greatness and be okay and comfortable with that. Like it makes people uncomfortable, I think. And sometimes it makes women uncomfortable to really stand in it. So I love that you touched on that. And then also too, the professor, like, I think sometimes it takes for people to really see us and to see us in a way that maybe we kind of see ourselves, but they just kind of, really plant a seed in us that really helps us grow. And I call those people destiny helpers,
Wow.
because they're really helping you get to, your next destination, or destination helpers. So I love that you touched on that, and that he, or was it a he or she? Sorry, I'm
It
like,
was a he, a he.
that he
Yeah,
planted that
yeah,
seed in you. That's amazing. It's amazing. Amazing.
yeah. It was a great experience, one I'll never forget, and I'll always share. Yes. Yes.
Natalie, that's so great that you had that experience with your professor. I too had an experience with a professor when I was in graduate school who helped me to look inward and find myself. And it's such a gift. So you opened Symmetry Physical Therapy and Wellness in 2007 after working for several PT practices. Can you share with us this journey and your decision to begin your own physical therapy practice?
Okay. When I was in graduate school, I never really thought that I would be opening my own practice. Initially, I wanted to do pediatrics and thought that was a great idea, and quickly learned that my strength and focus and my passion was in orthopedics and movement because I love teaching people how to move their bodies. I love figuring out different ways to do that. So long story short is I was working in different practices where we would see 2 to 4 patients an hour. And I just felt like that I wasn't doing my best. I wasn't, yeah, I'm not saying people can't get better in those environments. They do, but I was really into, I'm kind of nerdy when it comes to the body and science, and I really love getting to the root of things. And that does not really allow you to do that, to really facilitate um, long-lasting wellness healing. And so then I transitioned. I went way outside of the box and I rented space within a chiropractic office, which was great. They had a Pilates studio and I got certified in Pilates, and that was a really great experience. And then the owner of that practice, the chiropractor, was reading that book, The Secret, and he was having his staff read it. And he said to me, Natalie, think of a word to have above your office door. We're having these big words printed, positive affirmation type thing. And I said, oh, because at that point I knew I had already grown out of that place. And I said, believe, believe. And so that's what I would see every day when I went into the office and I didn't know what that meant for me, what was next. And so anyways, again, long story short, things just started to flow. And I found this office space, didn't even know how I would pay for the deposit or anything. I just stuck with believe that you could do it. I envisioned it. I pictured myself answering the phone in my own office and people just flowing in and lots of smiling faces. And one thing just led to another. And here I am, 17 years later in this space, and we've expanded. And um, that's how I ended up here. Now, my husband saw this way long before I did. Oh, you need to open your own place. Oh, you need to, he's always like a couple steps ahead of me in that category, in my growth category, my personal growth category. Just one of those people, again, who see something in you that maybe you just don't see in yourself at the time.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love that you listened to yourself, that you had outgrown or shifted away from something towards something else
Yeah.
and allowed yourself to go into that flow of where you were headed.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds all wonderful. It isn't easy because you're not really knowing what that is. And it's about being comfortable and with not really knowing what it looks like,
Mhm.
not trying to fill in all the blanks, not being an over planner, leaving some space for things to manifest, right? For the universe, for God to come through in your life, just leaving that space. And so that's one thing that I've realized that I have had in me since I was a little girl, and without realizing it. Now I've come full circle and I know what it is. I used to always describe myself as somebody who sees the glass half full, right? And what I know now is that the glass is completely full and expansive all the time. And the way that I love the analogy because the part of the glass that holds water is what we can see, what we can feel and touch, right? And it's our physical experience. And then the rest is that expansive what we haven't seen yet. That, you know, it's what faith is all about, and hope, right? And it's limitless, it's expansive, it's like the air that we breathe. We know it's there, we're doing it every moment. We can feel it, right? You can feel things outside of what you can see. And so now I'm like, the glass is always full and overflowing and unlimited. The thing is to have yourself in an awareness and an alignment with, gosh, there's a lot to this, but just taking care of yourself, clearing your lens. And that's what I love helping people to do, is just to be able to clear their lens so that they can be in alignment with their higher self. So then when solutions to problems come, you can see it when it's right there in front of you. When the next new idea comes, you know it's really for you. When you have an opportunity that you think is bigger than you can carry yourself through it. You know, because the doubter, that voice in the head, gets louder and louder the closer you get to whatever that next big
Oh,
thing is.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you said a whole mouthful. I mean, I felt like we just went through a whole mini masterclass with that. That was awesome. But so many things, like you touched on the glass analogy. I love that. And a large part of also what you were saying is really like when you took that plunge, it's, you know, and you couldn't really see, it's like, you know, the analogy of the staircase, you know, it's like you're not trying to get to the top in one leap, but you're just taking that first step, you know, on the staircase to try something new. And I think a lot of times, like, we get so comfortable and rooted in what we're doing because it's just what we know, and we're not, you know, really confident. This really boils down to confident within ourselves to kind of take that plunge. And I think because you had been taking so many risks, right, like going back to school with 3 kids, like doing all these things, you were almost comfortable, like taking that, and confident taking that next step. So I love that you mentioned that. And really, like, I always contribute everything to energy, because we're all energy, everything in the universe is energy. But it's like you went towards things that were it no longer served you, and it wasn't giving you energy, to go to things that felt more in line with you, that gave you energy. So just love that. You said so many things, from the word believe and everything. I'm like, we could go so many different directions in this next question, but I would love to just know what inspired you to diversify your physical therapy practice. You know, you incorporate Pilates, the Red Cord Studio, focusing on post-rehab fitness, sports performance enhancement, so much more. Like, can you also explain what Red Cord is for our audience members who don't know what that is?
Oh boy. Okay, that's a big question. Red cord, I'll explain that first. Red cord is, it was developed in Norway. As you might know too, a lot of like Olympians and elite athletes get all the really good stuff first. This has been used for, gosh, like 20 plus years now. And it's a suspension. Do you want me to show you just real quick what it looks like? Let me just show you a red cord station, because I'm here at my office, and because it's really hard to envision. I'm just going to take you for a walk
Oh yeah, I
here.
love it.
Okay. Just take a little walk here. And do you see those slings there? The sling?
Yes.
Yes, and the table beneath it. Okay.
Oh
So
my
what
gosh.
a red cord
That's
station.
amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty it's wild, but it's amazing. So what we do on the rehab therapy side is, it's called NEURAC, which stands for neuromuscular activation. And what we're doing with Red Cord is we do what's called weak link testing. So because you're in these bungees and ropes, we take you through different movements to test different myofascial chains. I'm going to try and make this really quick. And then we can see, our goal is to find the weakest link. Because if you find the weakest link, and then we can then bias you to reactivate those dormant muscles, or that muscle pattern, and take it right to the central nervous system. So it's not like training where you're doing 3 sets of 14 or 10 or 8. It is linking those muscles to your central nervous system, and it happens immediately. They come on immediately. So when you get to the weakest link, it will change your movement pattern. Everything else just ramps up from there. So it's very unique. It's incredibly successful for degeneration of the spine, cervical spine, low back pain, shoulders, just the whole body. But when we get to the neck and the low back, it's incredible. I'm even like in awe of it sometimes when I'll look at someone's MRI and I'm like, ooh, does this person need surgery? And sometimes they do. Usually they don't. And it's been, yeah, incredible. So that's red cord. Opening the Pilates studio was a result of helping people to rehab and get back to their full function. And then they go out in the world and then get re-injured in, some class that usually has a Z or an X in it, or, And I actually had clients just say to me, can I just come here and exercise? Can I come here and do Pilates? And then that space over there, it was a gyrotonic studio. And every day I would walk by it because I have to go by it to go to the restroom. And I would just say, wow, it'd be really cool to have that space. It'd be really amazing if that space ever opened. And then the rest is history. It opened. I got a really great deal on it. And we've been doing that ever since. Yeah.
You
So
manifested it.
everything has been like a thought first. And that's not just for me, it's for
Yeah.
everyone, anyone, whether it's something negative or positive that's happened in your life. If you really look back and think about what you were thinking, what you were focused on most, right? Usually that's where it all started. Yeah, and
Oh my
just
gosh. That was amazing. I mean, and it's so true. We have like 50,000, 60,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of them are negative, And so when you think about, like, I always tell people, whatever you're thinking about will manifest, you think about it long enough. And so if you're thinking about it and you can really see it, and that's what you were doing, it's like, I feel like you did that at almost every stage of your life. You're like manifesting the next move without even really
yeah,
forcing it,
yeah.
So love that.
Yeah, while we're on that topic, the one thing I do want to say about that though is a lot of times, so when I see a patient, I can tell um typically like how long it's going to take them to rehab. Are they going to be, and it's all by how they speak about their bodies, how they speak about their injury and their capacity to heal. And then, but that's where I come in. I mean, all the other stuff is I've been doing it for so long. That's the easy part, analyzing their movement and strengthening and all of that using red cord. But it's about really helping them to see themselves and see their potential.
Yeah.
By helping them with their mindset and giving them tools outside of when they come here 2 or 3 hours a week. And that's really important. And I just want to say, because a lot of times good things are happening in your life, but if your lens is clouded with negativity, you're not even going to see it. I'll have somebody come in, say they're using a walker, and then 2 weeks later, they're walking in, but they're still like, oh, what am I going to get better? Yeah, they haven't seen that. So it's my job to show
Find
them
them.
and
Yeah.
to guide them through that. But in life, it applies to everything in life. It's so good things can be happening around you and you won't recognize it. Good things are happening every day. But if your focus is elsewhere, you're going to miss it. So I just want to put that out there too, that there's options.
No, I love that you touched on the mindset because it's so important, and really it's the mindset of living, in fear or love, or if in gratitude and not living in gratitude. And a lot of times I think people get boggled down by the thing, the thing that they're focusing on, that they're not opening up their lens to look further beyond that one thing in seeing all the blessings that they have. I mean, just even a blessing to get up and breathe air. That's a blessing, you know, just to put your feet on the ground, be able to walk, you know. So I think a lot of times it's so easy for us, and I'm guilty of it, you know, throughout my life, to get focused on that one thing, you know, hyper focus, and not look at, you know, all the blessings around. So I love that you mentioned that. And then the other thing, just going back to the mindset as well, is I remember when anytime I hate even using the word, anytime I get sick, I actually don't say I'm sick. Like I literally will not put that out there. Like when people are like, "Oh, are you sick?" I'm like, "No." like I'm like, there's just something traveling through my body, and it's having an experience that I'm, you know, but I will not use those words. Like I don't like to use the words I'm sick. So like even with my kids, like we, you know, when they're like, "I'm sick," I'm like, "No, you're not." like, you know, I'm like, just something's traveling through, you know, altering your normal state. I said, and that's okay. I said, we're gonna pray over that, you know, or we'll do something. So I love that you say that, because a lot of times I think what we speak to ourselves, our body hears it, you know,
Yes.
here's everything. So if you're telling yourself like, I'm not going to get well, or you know, I wish I was this and that, it's like you're not celebrating the baby steps and the little wins that you're having along the way. So love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's so true. You're not celebrating the little wins. And I do the same thing. I do not use those words. I have a specific dialogue around how my body's functioning and what my body's going to do, because your body responds to your thoughts. It responds to, and words are so powerful. And I've seen that in action. And then it in with for myself as well. Yeah, I don't use those words. Clients come in when they start speaking. I'm like, okay, we're gonna just do a little vocabulary lesson here, and yeah, that you hit the nail on the head. Another word you used when talking about energy was boggled down by, and so what I try to remind myself is that holding like negative thoughts, or say resentments, there's so many different emotions, takes so much more energy than just letting it go. And so that word that you use, boggled down by, like that's like so right on. I love that you used that in expressing, yeah, the difference.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the power of positive thinking and how you manifested just even looking at a studio. I did that with my daughter going to a preschool that was hard to get into, and just so many other things. Like I parked my car in front of the preschool and was like, "You're going to go here," you know? And then she got the call. So, um, you talked about working on personal empowerment from the outside in. Can you tell us about a power pose? And can you give us a few power pose examples and what these poses do to help you with strength and confidence?
Sure, yes. So that came from a talk that I gave recently, and that's working it from the outside in. So that's research based. There's a researcher, her name's Amy Cuddy, and she did this research. She did a TED Talk. I actually got this from hers and brought it to womanevolve. And so basically, how you hold your body, your posture, your body responds to it hormonally, which then affects your brain, right? So say you're waiting for an interview and you're in a lobby and you're on your cell phone and you're closed in like this, your body will upregulate cortisol, right? So they did this by taking saliva swabs to measure hormonal concentrations. And so closed in postures, leaning forward, high rates of cortisol, and people that do that when they go into an interview or pitching their business or whatever, they do, or doing tests, don't perform as well, as opposed to a power pose, which is up right here. So one power pose you could probably get away with, I always tell people, is like the Wonder Woman pose, right? Hands on the hips. You would know this, Tamisha, that going through the finish line, right? The victory pose up here, everything, if you notice, is like expansive. It's opening up the heart, is what I notice. And You upregulate testosterone, and yes, women have testosterone too. So what they found is that people who do this for just 2 minutes, 2 minutes is all it takes, will go in and perform better on a test, an interview. It just as we know, testosterone is correlated with strength and confidence. And so I loved that. I did that myself. I do it every now and then. But before my public speaking engagement, you better believe I was power posing every moment before I power posed walking out onto the stage. I was like,
I love it.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's amazing. And when I saw your talk,
Mm.
that was a big takeaway for me. I have over the last, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, I have a tendency to slouch. I'm 5'11", and after seeing your talk, I started when I'd wake up in the morning feeling kind of tired and groggy, I started doing the Wonder Woman pose and then
Yeah.
the celebratory pose. And I'm telling you, it was like I just felt so empowered.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love
So when you were talking about like manifesting, right? That's from the inside out. And then the power poses, right? It's like the fake it till you make it or act as if. And it
it.
totally works both ways.
It does. Yeah. Which is it's good news, right? And quickly, just 2 minutes, 2 minutes makes all the difference.
Isn't it amazing what just a couple minutes of shifting or movement, going back to your movement, and how much you love movement and how you're teaching people to just move their bodies in different ways. Like just a little slight difference in movement. Movement is so key to shifting, your energy.
Yeah.
And so like Ali said, she woke up kind of tired, like her energy was a little down, but then boom, she shifted it with just one pose. So I love that. I have to check out Amy Cuddy. Is that how you say her name?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna look that up.
Cuddy.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out. Well, you also co-own 2 Orangetheory Fitness franchises. Tell us, like, what motivated you to enter that kind of fitness industry and also just promote a healthier lifestyle for clients?
Okay, so here at Symmetry, I'm always treating one patient at a time. And I just kept thinking, boy, yeah, I love fitness. We know that. And I would really love one, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so I would just think to myself, I'd love to just like dip my toes and just have just like a little piece of that. But I'd also like to help more than just one person at a time on my table to achieve optimal wellness, health, well-being. And that was it. It was just literally that thought, that desire, and then it really became a strong desire. And then one of my clients heard about Orangetheory Fitness. There was another couple, and they're business people, no fitness knowledge at all. They wanted a meeting with me, said, hey, there's this franchise coming up. And at that time, there was only one in the state of California. And there were tons in Florida. And I checked it out, and I just thought, oh, I hope they want more than just my opinion. And they did. They wanted to be partners. I told my husband about it, and the rest is history. We got together, and we got really fortunate to get the locations that we got, and it was just smart. It's a really well-rounded workout that's really effective. So I wasn't going to be a part of anything other than that. I'm not trying to create more patients, right? Yeah. So it really fulfilled a desire, a strong desire to just help the masses, which I've written so many times without realizing that I was using that word.
That's incredible, by the way. And we actually had Brendan Ayambadejo on, who I know that you know as well, because we came across your content having just interviewed Brendan, and I think you liked one of the posts, and I was looking at a lot of the people who were liking his content and his post, and came across your page. I was like, we have to talk to her. Like, it's just phenomenal. But he he talked about it similarly as well, and it just seems like such an amazing franchise to be a part of. I mean, he ended up, I think, having like 55 locations or something. So it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And I know Allie, who's jumping in, is a huge fan of Orange Theory because she goes regularly.
I got so excited as you were talking about Orangetheory. Yeah, I'm a member there. And as I was sharing with Brendan, I was able to get off thyroid medication because of what Orangetheory does for my mind, body, and soul. And I love the community at Orangetheory, like just how much it motivates. And as someone with ADHD, the stimulation at Orangetheory is just right for me and for the way that I learn, the way I work out. I've played college water polo, so I need to be part of a group to work out. It's a little bit harder for me to do it on my own. Not that it's impossible, but I just love the community there at Orangetheory. And I think it's so cool that you're a big part of that.
Thank you. I love hearing that. And that's a big part of its success too, is that community, right? The community. And it's been so fulfilling.
Can you walk our audience through one of your visualization practices?
I can walk you through. It's interesting. You probably, well, you saw the video of me at womanevolve, yes, doing the visualization. What's interesting about that is I had notes for that visualization, and as I was walking out, my visualization note fell on the floor. And I didn't have it during, and so I just had to like wing it, which was probably better than anything else that could have happened. But with visualization, when I do it for myself, I use a guided visualization app. And so the first part of it is getting into shifting your body into that parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. So that rest and digest mode, which actually changes the state that your brain's in so that you can receive and visualize, and it has a different effect, on your body and then on your subconscious mind. So it starts with some breath work. It's like meditation, only you are hyper focused. You are focused on an intent. So what I did at womanevolve was we did a visualization to see their future empowered selves. So you think of whatever it is that you want to accomplish in the future, and then you visualize these steps, and then from there it just sets your subconscious mind so that, again, it's kind of like a lens clearer and a brain energizer. So then you start to recognize the next steps to take when they're right there in front of you. You're just open and you're in alignment with that future self. So then in any moment you might think, well, what is future Demisha? What do I need to do right now for future Demisha, for future Allie? And it just puts you in that without really thinking those words. You just move in the direction. And so it's very powerful. It's very science-based too. It's not super woo-woo. And what I like about it, and what I think makes it more accessible to the masses, is that it's not, meditation's amazing as well, but you don't have to worry about just keeping clearing. You get to hyper focus on whatever it is that you want to achieve. You can use it for everything, anything.
Well, and it gives our mind something to do rather than to be anxious and in anticipation of that next thing in a negative way, right? Otherwise, our mind is going to just tell us a bunch of stories. I know growing up, I was taught to do it before dance performances or swim meets. And at the time, I thought of it as woo-woo because like my parents would have me do it. And so, anything that your parents have you do when you're in like middle school is like so uncool. And now I'm just like so grateful for those visualization opportunities because I can just see exactly how I hope for something to go. And then that practice of detaching from that outcome, but just kind of visualizing it happening, your mind thinks that you're actually doing it, right? Because it doesn't know the difference between what you're doing and what you're telling yourself that you're doing. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. Um, so yeah, so that's what I do. Both of you, I'm sure, have a lot of experience as athletes, and that's how I present it. Is it's what Olympic athletes and elite athletes do um, when they're competing, and it works.
It
Yeah.
does. It does. And similar to Ali, my dad, who is a former NFL football player, he played for the 49ers, the Raiders, and also the Vikings. And he used to tell me all the time, visualize yourself, running your race, but every aspect, not just you know, like kind of a surface level visualization. And I think that's where a lot of people get visualization wrong. I actually wrote an ebook called 10 Simple Yet Powerful Ways to Practice Self-Reflection. And one of the steps in there is around visualization. But one of the things that I did was really break it down by giving an example of how I visualized a race. And it's so important to use all of your senses when you're visualizing, and I would visualize hearing the crowd roar, like the noise that every little detail, like my footsteps, like, I could visualize all of it, not just like from going from one A to B, right? When you're racing, but just every aspect of visualization. I do that now with my businesses, with raising my children, like everything. I do it with everything. So I love that you mentioned that. You also touched on womanevolve, which the amazing Sarah Jake Roberts had this incredible conference. First, how did you? This was your first speaking engagement, right? Like, how
Yeah.
did that come about? I mean, it was really the fastest selling women's conference with over 40,000 attendees, and this was your first speaking engagement. That's incredible in itself. I want to hear all about it.
Oh, I did not know it was the fastest selling. That's pretty amazing. I'm not surprised. It was amazing. Conference for the attendees and the speakers as well. We were all in that room and grew from it. But so I know Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts and her husband Teray Roberts, and gosh, it's been a few years. They mentioned, oh, we'd like you to come and speak at our conference, and at the time it was perfect timing, because had they asked me, say, even 6 months prior to that, I would have probably done any and everything I could do to wiggle my way out of it. I was like, wait, what? Public speaking? No. But the timing was right. The timing was perfect. They definitely saw something in me that I didn't. I'm like, what am I going to speak about? What do you? And then I just backed up and said, okay, this is an opportunity that has come to you for a reason. The voice in my head is saying, you don't do that. You don't, and I had to recognize that for what it was, quiet that down, kind of put it for a nap. And I had to do this every single day. So they asked, and then the conference kept growing. And then all of a sudden it's in this venue, a stadium. And then
Oh,
the
the
others,
photos, it's incredible.
it's incredible. Yeah. So your question was how my experience with it. Sorry, I got
No, no, it was all of that. Like, just, how did it come about? Like, tell us about it a little bit, just what
yeah,
that even felt like.
yeah.
Like, I couldn't imagine. So I'll tell you, like, I had a talk recently that it was my first speaking engagement just last year. And it was paid, and I was just excited and scared shitless, excuse my language, but just so scared. And I had maybe like 300 people on the Zoom call. I could not imagine 40,000 people and walking out on stage, and that's like your first conference, So what did that feel like, like, and how did you
That was
overcome?
terrifying. Okay, so first thing is I talked to my husband about it, and he said, well, he said, I know one thing for sure about you. You will be prepared. You are not going to go out there because and then I thought about it and I thought, oh, he's right. Yeah, I'm probably going to do everything I can do to prepare. And I did. I met a few times with a public speaking coach who was amazing. And she then said to me after looking at my resume, she goes, "Oh, you really put yourself out there. I never thought of myself as somebody who put themselves out there." And I'm like, okay. And so that was part of it. And then Sarah Jakes Roberts did this 40-day fast leading up to the concert. And it wasn't a fast for eating, it was giving up something. And for me, it was giving up like a glass of wine with dinner on the weekends. It was giving up something that could just help to, that, if you give it up, it's probably going to increase and help your alignment, right, with your higher self. And so that's what I did. And day 3, all these things just came in. Day 3 of that fast, I'm in bed at night, and I'm just trying to go to sleep, just about to fall asleep, and then boom, this word, this Bible, Corinthians 16:14. And I'm like, what? Yeah, because I'm not going to Bible study every week or anything. If you were to ask me to name some books in the Bible, that would not be the first, right? So I pop up, and thank goodness for the internet, and I look that up. And basically, the bottom line of that is bring love into everything you do, right? And then from there, I just kept like literally channeling, like, what am I, my intention was for whatever is supposed to flow through me to those women, for me to just be a clear channel for it. So each week, just more and more would come up, like the Amy Cuddy, the visualization, everything came up. And I was doing everything that I was teaching those women to do, I was doing in my own preparation to be there. So now I'm going to fast forward to, and that was a transformative experience for me, because it made me go through seeing other people who are speaking at the conference and doing that whole comparison thing. They all had like hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, or like Brene Brown was a speaker at the conference. And I'm just like, what? Why am I going to be there? I have like 600 people on Instagram. What is happening right now? So anyways, I had to do a lot of work just to keep myself in the space of, you're there because you're supposed to be there. And not easy, but it was the like most pivotal experience of my life to date. I'm 59 years old, and grew tremendously and still growing. Now I'm into this whole other phase because of that experience. But I'm going to fast forward the morning of that conference, or the day that I'm supposed to be there. Wait, I'm going to say this. The opening night, they treated us so well. We were escorted into the area and seated for opening night. And where do I end up sitting? Right in the middle. If I had any doubt that I was supposed to be there, right in the front row of the stage, center. And here comes TD Jakes just like walking out. And I'm just like, okay, God put me here for a reason. Like, boom, girl, this is where you're supposed to be. Just listen and receive. And I did. So then the next morning, my heart was just pounding. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I'd seen the stadium the night before full of people. And I just dropped down on my knees and I just prayed. And then I anchored to, because when you do visualization, you have an anchor. Your anchor is your why, it's your purpose. And if you don't know your why or your purpose, you can do a visualization to find it, right? So I dropped down, prayed, and then my own voice in my head said, Natalie, everything you need to do to be on that stage is what you're speaking about when you're on that stage. So do it now. And I did it all. I did the visualization. I power pose like crazy, because they had me in this room right beforehand, like a green room. And in the green room, they forgot to change out the name signs, and it said, "Welcome, Brene Brown." And I was like, so the last person to be on stage was Brene Brown. And then there was a break, and then Natalie Sampson. So it was an amazing experience. And it's helped me just to, when you experience something like that, I feel like part of my purpose is to help others, just to give them tools to tap into what it takes to just come into yourself, get rid of the comparisons, and it's a daily practice. And just to know that that negativity, that negative voice in your head, it gets louder the closer you are to what's on that other side, right? And it might not look like what you think it's going to look like. When I was preparing for this talk, I was going through old notes and things, and I kept seeing this sentence that I kept writing and journaling, saying, I want to share my knowledge and experience that I've gained over the years with the masses. Now, I know when I was writing that sentence over and over that I was thinking more like YouTube videos or a book or a little, I don't know, guide, not on stage in front of, boom, 14 or 40,000 women. And so there, I know everything I say goes back to like intention, mindset, desire, right? But then also it's also about continuing to take care of yourself, clearing your lens, and so that you can show up for yourself and not looking outside of you, right? For the answers. Go in, create space within so that you can be in alignment with your purpose and your why.
You were absolutely exactly where you needed to be. And I love that the universe and God just put you smack dead in the center of the entire stadium, just so you could know. It was almost like that little whisper saying, you're exactly where you need to be. I just love that. And I love that you're so rooted in your purpose, and, a lot of times, even when we're rooted in our purpose, fear creeps up, and it's really the difference between, again, living in fear and love. It's like we constantly talk ourselves out of things constantly. It's so easy to do, but I love that you stood in it. And, I love that your husband is such a great supporter, and, it's like, I know you're going to be prepared, and you were, it's like you were beyond prepared, not just in doing the work. And I love some of the advice that you gave, like you got a coach, like you, and I love that advice, by the way, because a lot of times, like, I think people don't take the time to prepare, in a way like that, like, so I love that you took those steps. And then also too, trusted yourself to go forth in a stadium with Brene Brown, who Allie and I both love, and, and also Sarah Jakes Roberts, who is a powerhouse in herself, like she's amazing, and her whole family. So I love that this was your first conference, and it just lets me know, like it helps me dream even bigger, because we share a very similar why. Like, I wanted to share my story, my journey, all my learnings with the masses, but I just didn't know what that looked like. So boom, birth Sunday Soul Day, So it's been wonderful so far, but I love that.
Thank you.
And I love that Bible verse came to you about putting love into everything that you do. And it leads me to my next question. It's around your shift in mindset from fear into love, that, you're in this space now, but it sounds like just from one of your talks or from the same talk that you weren't always in a mindset of positivity and love. You had shared about your grandmother's struggles with Alzheimer's and kind of your own fears around developing illness. Can you discuss how your mindset around fear has evolved over time into that space of love?
I'll say that, yeah, was a recognition of the ego for me when I read the book A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. It's an amazing book. That book was pivotal for me, and just being able to recognize the difference, to be able to recognize that negative voice in the head that's there to, I guess, its whole job is to find a problem, right? Where's the fear? Where's the problem? It's a certain area of the brain that that is still highly active that we needed a long time ago. So that reading that book was pivotal for me, but I will say it's a daily practice. It's a moment to moment practice because fear is always going to crop up. It's natural. It's just having tools in place to shift out of it or to go into it and figure out, okay, why do I have this fear? Where is it coming from? What is it rooted in? It's the same with your body as it is with your mind, right? Where's this pain coming from? And then from there, just making sure that your next step, your decisions are not fear-based. Nothing good is going to come out of a fear-based decision. And so I always remember that. And then in every moment when I'm making a decision, I ask myself, why are you making that decision? And it isn't easy, but the more you do it, the more you, now if I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I haven't had enough sleep, I haven't been moving my body, I'm not eating well, all those things that we know help us to be well balanced in our mind. If I'm not doing that, then I'm going to be, then that voice is going to get louder. Fear is going to get louder. Love gets squashed, right? Your lens is just, and so I'm going to say it's more of an awareness. I'm not going to say that I've just completely shifted out of that because there's never, I don't know anyone who wakes up every day and they're just love from that day on. I think it's a continual evolution. And I think then once you get to one area or level, then there's another part of you that is now expanded and you've got to learn how to navigate that.
Glad that you touched on fear will never disappear. It actually serves a purpose, right?
Yeah.
It helps keep us safe. And so I like to tell people to thank the fear, but don't let it own you.
Yeah. And with my patients as well, a lot of times I'll tell them, okay, most likely when you leave here, you're going to feel better than when you left. But when your pain comes back, and it might, that's a golden opportunity. Don't be afraid of that pain. We're designed that this is your body working with you, not against you. And it's golden. It's going to give us information. So when you feel that pain, stop what you're doing. Think about, what am I doing right now? What position am I in? What did I do yesterday? I have them go through this whole process and just know that that's golden. That's gonna, and then bring it back and let's figure it out. So it's the same thing with fear. Um, that's just more mind driven. Pain too is also an interpretation, right? That we know, but it's our bodies communicating with us, and it's supposed to be there. It's not our bodies rebelling. It's like we're still wired and connected.
That's so great. I'm going to shift to our next question, and it's about you becoming involved in acting and lifestyle modeling. Can you share with us a little bit about that and how it's been for you to have your husband join you along in this journey?
Yeah, sure. So again, it's right here in this room, this treatment room. I did this thing called the deathbed scenario where, and you've probably done this before, where you think about yourself at the end of your life and you're thinking back on your life, and there are all those things that we won't ever regret. Oh, I never regret taking that day off and going to the park with my kids, or, those things, right? And then I shifted into the what ifs. Wonder what would have happened if I had tried that thing, right? And so commercial acting was one of those things. I've just had a couple of friends that were doing it, and it sounded like fun. And I thought, okay, well, let me just check it out. So I know that if I'm here and I'm treating patients from 8 o'clock in the morning till, at that time, this is pre-COVID, 8 o'clock at night, or all day long, and I still have the energy to drive from Calabasas to Los Angeles to take a commercial acting class that ends at 10:30 at night, and I'm excited about it, that I'm on the right track, right? So I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. None of that still. That's me, that half empty part of the class, right? So I took the class, loved it. Quickly, things flowed. I quickly got an agent, and then COVID hit and everything shut down. So then when they started doing commercials, they wanted real families, real couples. So I said to my husband, I said, I got an audition. I said, guess what? We're going to audition for a commercial. And he said, okay. And he's the one who has when he was in high school, he used to do like plays and things like that. I'd forgotten about that. Long story short, we did 2 auditions. Second one, we got the commercial. We're there, we're doing this commercial, and we're sitting outside. And he says, wow, I could do this for a living. And there's something about the way he said that. I knew it was definitely true for him. It just like vibrated out. And I've never seen him like more happier than when he's on set. And for me, it's fun, but for me, I feel like and felt like and still feel like it's preparing me for something else. Um, it definitely gave me, it was a time of period. We've done, gosh, the last time I counted, we've done like over 60 different projects. And just like that was like in 2.5 years. It was a lot. It saved us. It really saved us too, because our Orange theories were shut down. It was just it was like one thing leading to another. So that was just one of those, like you could call it like a bucket list kind of thing, where I wonder what would have happened if. The other part of that I'll just mention real quick is the thing that I didn't realize at the time is that I looked back at what I liked to do when I was 8 years old. A friend of mine told me, she wrote this book called Subconscious Power. And when you're 8 years old is like, especially for little girls, kids in general, is this magical time where societal expectations haven't gotten a hold of you yet. Parents haven't gotten a hold of you yet. You're still into who you are and what lights you up. And I thought back, and when I was 8 years old, I used to put on these plays. And I was like a shy little girl, but I put on plays, and so it all kind of fit and resonated on this other, but in retrospect.
Okay, as you're talking, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this technique with my clients called the 8 and 80 activity, because I've done both, where we look back at, envision looking back at our life and what we would have regretted doing. And then also, what, when you were a child, were you interested in, and go back to that before the societal expectations. So the 8 and 80 activity, love it. Thank you for that tip.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's really powerful, I think, too. Yeah, it's
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I didn't do the 80, like fast forwarding to when I was older, but what I did do, something that Steve Harvey actually recommended, was to make a list of 300 things that you wanted to achieve. And I'm telling you, it was the hardest activity I've ever done in my entire life. 300. I want to be very clear. Yes, I said that correctly. I maybe got to like 55 and was struggling. But then what I did is I started going back inward and looking at, like, okay, think about all the things you wanted to do as a kid. And I wrote down, it's like things flowed out of me. I'm still not even at 300, just so we're clear. but I'm at least closer. I'm at 200. So that's great. So I love that. Well, you mentioned your husband. I know you're looking like, oh my gosh, but you mentioned your husband. Like, I would love to, just with our audience, share any tips or pointers for a happy and healthy relationship. Have you always been in, prior to your husband, like healthy relationships?
no. No. Um, I'll say even early on, I mean, my childhood was, and this is in no way like poor me or anything, but I had probably would you people typically will assume, because I'm a pretty positive person, that I had like this great childhood and well-balanced childhood. I did not. I had it was I had a very abusive relationship with my mom, both physically and a lot of verbal abuse. And so I initially thought that I had a poor definition of love, right? And what love looks like and what's okay. And so I attracted, yeah, not a healthy relationship when I was in high school. And then I'll say then, fortunately, I woke up and felt and saw like my worth and value at least better than that, right? Early on with my husband, though, we've been together so long, 38 years. And when I met him, I was 18, he was 20. We didn't, that's when we met and then got together a couple years after that. And I'll say we grew together. Our relationship has gone through a lot. This is no fairy tale relationship, but one thing is that we've always had like a really strong attraction to each other, like this attraction that I can't really, it's like beyond words. And we've always really cared for each other. We were really good friends, I'll say that. But we went through a lot in our early years, and we've just evolved over time. It was definitely not perfect. It's not fairy tale. But I'll say now, even we still grow, we're still growing now, you know, in our communication skills. But I'd say that there's a podcast that I've been listening to lately called Sipping on Excellence. I know the podcasters, but there are these two gentlemen. One's a spine surgeon that I work with. The other is a life coach. And they talk about, they help you to get into the psyche of a man, right? When it comes to relationships. And they say that men really aren't ready for marriage until age 35. I believe that's true.
Me too.
Yeah, I believe it's true. And so I'm not saying like, oh, all I can say is that we've had a good respect for each other. And I feel like part of it is just like luck in a way. And a lot of deep breaths and really again believing in um who you are, because I really went inward and during a part where I just worked on myself and I told myself this is what I deserve, this is what I truly deserve, and I was fine with whether that was my husband or not. And I'll just remember there was one day where we were in an argument in the kitchen. I don't even remember what it was. He walked outside, go take out the trash. And I was saying to myself, I deserve better than this. I deserve love. I deserve, just in my head. He walked in, this is just like a couple minutes, and said the most loving thing to me. And I was like, whoa, okay. And so maybe if I hadn't have gone through that mindset thing, maybe he would have said those words and I just wouldn't have recognized it or heard it for what it was. Or maybe I attracted that. Doesn't matter, right? The results are the same in that from that point on, we just grew. And then there came a time where then he was doing the same thing. We were both just in it together, manifesting together intentionally, consciously. And I would even hear him saying, yeah, Natalie always talks about thinking, you know, he was learning from me at that point, which was really cool. And
Gosh.
then, yeah, so then we became business partners. And then that was a whole nother thing to navigate, as well as in terms of communication was totally different. That was a whole nother realm. And then we started doing the lifestyle modeling and acting. That was a whole nother thing, doing auditions together. And yeah, so, but we just keep moving forward. We keep working it out. And we just have this closeness. It's
Mhm.
and it's beyond anything that I could put into words.
Yeah.
It's
No,
weird.
thank you so much for sharing that. I love that you touched on so many things. I'll just quickly run through them, but like
Yeah.
men aren't really ready to be married until they're 35. I probably couldn't agree more. And this is not a knock to any man, or,
Okay.
or woman who gets married prior to that. And who are in very healthy relationships, because I know some, but for the most part, on average, absolutely, that is very accurate. And then I love that you and your husband really, it sounds like you just created a space for one another to evolve, and to not kind of rest on who you were when you first met, but to allow yourself to just continue to grow over time. And that is really just the most beautiful thing, like in relationships. I think when people create that space for people to show up as themselves, whatever that is in that moment, because we are constantly evolving and changing, so I love that you and your husband did that together, and just went down so many different paths, from growing individually, growing together, then becoming business partners, then now doing the lifestyle stuff. So beautiful. And then you touched on love, and I think when I think about relationships, and I've been in, some healthy and some not so healthy relationships, and friendships, but I think about it really boils down to one thing, which is choice. And we choose to either be loving in a moment after an argument, like your husband did, or we choose not to. And that's it. Like, I remember asking this question. I'll quickly segue to this, but I asked this question to my Facebook community. And I asked them, I said, to all married couples, single too, but I really wanted to hear from married people, what's the secret to keeping a healthy relationship? And everyone gave me really long answers, long drawn out, but really, I believe it's so simple. And I have this quote that's, life is BCD. We're all born, we're all going to die, and everything in between is our choice. And so it really boils down to choice. We choose to show up in love. We choose to not cheat. We choose to be, faithful, to support. All choice. So love that you touched on a lot of those things.
Yeah, that's interesting. The choice part too, when you talk about, we choose not to cheat. I also feel like, especially with that, like faithfulness and loyalness within a relationship, that choice though is based on you and who you want to be. I know there are people who are like, oh, but he's so wonderful, I would never cheat on him. It should be about how you want to show up, how you want to show
Oh
up.
my gosh. Thank you for saying that.
You
Yeah,
know,
you have to go to bed at the end of the day with yourself,
exactly. Who
and
do
you
you
do it for you first and foremost.
Yeah, it's like,
right?
what are you rooted in? Like, what are your guiding principles as a woman, as a man? What are you rooted in? Oh my gosh, we should do a whole talk about that. I love that you touched on that, but wanted to ask you a question that we ask all of our guests, is, how do you're servicing so many people, you're a mother, you're, a wife, your whole community that you're servicing. How do you take care of yourself? Like, you touched on a couple of things that you do, but what are some things that you do regularly to fuel your mind, body, and soul?
Ooh, regularly. I make sure I get enough sleep. I'll say 8 times out of 10. And visualization is huge for me. Visualization, clearing my mind, finding a still space, and then making sure that I leave space for just creative things to flow. So everything I do has to do with just being in alignment, and just clearing my lens, because it gets clouded every day. I can wake up and one morning and say, who do you think you are doing X, Y, and Z? And then I recognize, okay, what that is, and go drink some water, put that down for a nap. Take out your toolkit. What
Drink
do
some
we have?
water.
Visualization. We've got deep breathing, right? Breath work's also important. So, okay, I'm going to teach you one thing real quick, just to reset yourself. It's super quick. You do it 3 times. You take a deep inhale, and then you inhale one more time. Exhale all the air out of your mouth. Do that 2 more times. Inhale, extra, exhale. One more. Inhale, you should feel a sense of calm.
I love that.
I love that too.
So fast, so quick. Our bodies are amazing. It's just about tapping into just those quick resets and then move from there. So that's what I try to do. Yeah.
And I love that extra little breath, right? We teach deep breathing. Kids are even learning deep breathing, but that
Yeah.
extra little breath, like afterwards, I felt like a fuzziness, but in a good way. Then it just all settled and I felt some clarity.
Yes, that clarity. That's it. That's the goal.
Yeah. I love all your self-care routines and your tips for relationship success and your realness. That
Thank
is
you.
right. We could say, because you have these pictures, these beautiful pictures with your husband, and you could easily be like, oh, our relationship is perfect, but it's so important to be honest, especially when you are, people look up to you, and to say, hey, we have to do the work, we have to continue growing and evolving. And it's such an inspiration to others that it's okay to not have this picture perfect relationship, that we have to put in the work and the time. And a side note, my husband and I met a month before he turned 35. We're both on our second marriages. So that is, I believe that's so true, but I think I'm just biased because it was my personal experience. And he was totally mature enough compared to other, relationships that I'd had. And I was, more mature. I love your relationship advice, which is also self-care. So, and then I want to ask you about I know you touched on a podcast earlier, but do you have any other life-changing books or podcasts that you would recommend to the audience?
Yes, I think I had mentioned A New Earth. That was great for recognizing ego. There's a book called Subconscious Power by Kimberly Friedmutter. That was great, just just education on the subconscious mind and how that is operating, in the background, and and she gives like really great tips on how to just tap into that. It's kind of like really visualization. There's also, I'm a science geek, so Huberman Lab. I love that podcast. He gives a lot of great information on health and wellness. He's a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford. And then there's Called Leaders. So I think it's called The Called. Oh, I should know this. That's Touré Roberts' podcast. It is incredible, and that's been a guiding light for me in my next chapter. I think what you guys are doing is wonderful as well. Yeah, I'm just like really grateful to be a part of this and to be a guest of yours. You guys are doing an amazing job. I've got some nuggets too from your last podcast that you did. I just listened in, and you should be very proud of yourselves and pat yourselves on the back and just keep moving.
Thank you so much for saying that. Like, just means the world. And we're like, I will say I am very proud of myself, really, for even just putting myself out there, because it's so not my personality, believe it or not. Like, it's not, Allie always says, she's like, I love attention, and I'm completely opposite. Like, I prefer to be in the background. Like, so for me to do this, it took, a lot of kind of overcoming the voice in my head to just say, like, just go, and so thank you so much for saying that. And thank you so much for just being an incredible guest and saying yes, first of all. I didn't know, you never know when Allie and I are reaching out, we don't know if people are going to say yes or ignore us. or if they're gonna, so we were so grateful. And I just have to mention, your energy is so beautiful. And I really felt it, not just in our conversation, but even just through your content. Like, it's very authentic, and you show up, in a way that, I'm just is goals, for me. Like, I love your energy. It's so beautiful. And I just wanted to say that. So I appreciate the advice you gave me as well. And I wanted to mention that because I had posted something about relationships, and Natalie was so wonderful. She's like, I normally don't provide unsolicited advice, but I wanted to just give you this piece of nugget, and I'll just share it for, single ladies. But she said that, in addition to, praying or getting what you want, like make sure you can recognize it, like recognize it when it shows up for you, and so I've now added to that, not only recognize it when it shows up, but also praying to keep it. And so and to keep it healthy. So I really appreciate that advice you gave me, and all the just gems you dropped today. Just been so wonderful for us, for our audience. I know Allie's taking notes like me, so I love it. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I love this. I get excited about it. I'm an introvert as well. You wouldn't know it, just like with you, Demisha. I would not know. You're so grounded and rooted. And then Allie she's just doing the work with your clients, right? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so these tips that we ask our guests, I try to just take them in and use them myself, because I know how much energy I'm utilizing with my clients. Similar to what you're saying with private practice, it's the same for me, that I want to put as much energy and focus on each and every client that I can. So restoring my energy is essential.
Ah, okay. So, I mean, I won't talk about it right now because I know we're probably wrapping up, but there are some tips and tricks I can give you so that you are maintaining your own energy and not using your vital energy in your efforts to help your clients. There's ways to, and it's really good because I used to be drained at the end of the day, not anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I would love to hear your pointers. Thank you. This has been so amazing. As Demisha said, there's nothing more that I could add to this. Just everything. You are beautiful inside and out. And it just felt like a chat with a friend, but even more like a friend mentor. Like, this is amazing. Thank you for everything. This has totally fueled my soul today.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. And everyone, please comment in the comments below just any takeaways that you got from this incredible interview with Dr. Natalie Samson. Have a wonderful Sunday, everyone.